I was in an armored division. I was armored infantry. Their tanks were so superior to ours, it was a disgrace to put an American soldier in a freaking Sherman tank. And I mean that. The guns didn't have the velocity that the Germans had. We didn't have the armor that the Germans had. Even the tank treads, some Shermans were so narrow that they would get stuck in the mud, for crying out loud. The Germans had broad treads and they would just glide right over it. But the Germans wouldn't have had to build but one Tiger, because after they had one Tiger, every tank that GI saw, I'm sorry to say, they called a Tiger. The best tank that the Germans had to me was the Panther, the Mark V. It was so superior to our tanks, but especially these guys that were in that Stuart tank. What a piece of junk that was. A 37 millimeter gun, for Pete's sake. I mean, that was disgraceful. I mean that. And we had the brains to produce better than that. Finally, and I hate to say this, it didn't have to be like that, because after Normandy, when they saw the shabbiness of the quality of our tanks, they had a conference and they had the Pershing already for production. Patton vetoed it. That's right. You
Why?
won't read about that because
Why would he veto that? Why?
he wants a fast tank. The Sherman was fast and maneuverable, and he wanted a fast tank. But we could have had the Pershing tank leaving Normandy already, and we didn't have it because of that veto.
This was on the 16th of December, and our objective was Balkheim, which was a village just out of the Hurtgen Forest. And it was foggy that morning. You couldn't see from here to the end of the building, to this room. That's how foggy it was. It was a sneak attack, A, B, and C troop. Two troops got in, B and C. A, which I was with, was bogged down in an open field. The fog had lifted completely within seconds. It just, I don't know where it got to. And we were all in an open field. The only thing that saved me was a farm implement, a steel roller that crushes ground after they plowed the field. And off to my right came a tank battalion, 5 light tanks. You're talking about it. One German tank, 88, took out all 5 of those tanks within seconds. That's how quick they were demolished. I was helpless. I couldn't help. I couldn't get across to anybody to help them. They were popping out of the tanks like popcorn. Terrible, a terrible situation. I'll always remember that. And the lead officer of that tank was Lieutenant Williams. I knew him personally. It was, my hands were tied. If I had tried to get to that man, I would have been destroyed myself. They would have picked me off. We took that day, you were talking about German soldiers, SS. The average German soldier wasn't too difficult. But I want to tell you, those SS troopers were trained. Believe me, they were trained. And we were able to combat that day. There were 600 SS troopers in that battle. So I just wanted to let you know what a German tank did, an 88, to our light tanks. They were garbage. Our tanks were garbage. They just took them right out.
How did you overcome that? I mean, it appears as though the Germans were about to overrun you.
I'll tell you something you won't believe. I didn't get into that. There were so many casualties and dead that the American medics and the German medics came forward with white flags and called the truth. Can you believe that? That actually happened in front of my eyes. The war stopped. The Germans didn't compete, and the Americans didn't compete. The medics went in and got the American casualties out, and the Germans came and got the German casualties out. In that interim, Mark Kistler got his ass out of there. I traveled on ground as low as I could. I found a recess in the earth, and I followed that so that they couldn't pick me off. And I got back to our headquarters. And the next morning, we regrouped, and then we took the town. B Troop and C Troop were in the edge of the town. We didn't make it because we were in open field and the Germans took us out. But believe me, those German 88s, we didn't have anything to compete with that until we came forward with that 90 millimeter. And that was after the Battle of the Bulge, right, Phyllis?
Yeah.
That came out after the Battle of the Bulge.
Our first engagement in the Battle of Bulge was with the 1st SS Panzer, the Leibstandard Adolf Hitler. And that was the group, we met the battle group that was responsible for the Malmedy massacre. They were a nasty bunch. Our second engagement was with the 2nd SS Panzer, the Das Reich. We met them Christmas night. And our third engagement was with the 9th SS Panzer, the Hohenstaufen. That was the German division that stopped the British at Arnhem. But ultimately I was wounded by a German SS officer during the Battle of Bulge.
About the British, well, nobody talked about the British. But we had a mission to make contact with the British Army. And we were told that they had taken the village and that our objective was to make contact with the British soldiers. Well, first of all, we went up, we had to take the village. Then we went through town, and there were the British having tea at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay?
A little bit of a different world, yeah.
Yes, their tea time was tea time. That's the way it was.
You said your gas mask, that was one of the things that you would give
we had
up?
no use for clogging up our backs with a gas mask.
Okay, are you making a joke, or there really wasn't?
No, everybody just threw them off, landed on the beach.
So was gas warfare outlawed already then?
No.
There was no, what we heard from the people, it was a useless thing for some reason.
Okay, so
I
if
don't
you
know,
were
maybe
in
the other
that,
troops didn't do it, but we did.
it didn't help?
Well, when you went ashore and you had that on, you were up in the water up to your neck. So carrying that, you know what happened? The gas mask filled with water. You know,
We had to cross rivers too.
you get rid of it.
One thing he didn't tell about the tanks, one of our guys, he was with the tank group, and they captured it. This is a story that they told us. And the guys got out of the tank, the speaker and all, the German thing, to surrender and all that sort of thing. So they told them, don't worry about it, everything will be fine, just go back in your thing and we won't touch you. And as the guy goes back, this is a hell of a story. They threw two hand grenades into the thing and closed the lid. That sounds bad, but that's what they told us.